Welcome to the Lay Under Bet Sports Betting Show. Looking at the NBA on Sunday here. Got 10 games on the slate, and we've got a lot of stuff coming out early, so I'm getting ahead of these early lines with you guys and showing you the looks that I'll be having on my card for tomorrow. Now, I don't have any bets down just yet, but I'm looking at the lines that are appealing as they come out, and then I'll be betting on stuff day of. Very key that in the NBA, you don't ruin your account by betting too early. You will get pinged. The sports books are going to keep an eye on sports bettors that are getting early bets in that end up getting a lot of value when the line closes up to game time, right? So you want to be careful with that stuff, but it's good to get the research done early so that you can keep track of these lines that are being offered by the books to see if they're still there on the day of, right? As we get all the news that we need injury-wise and the like. So we're going to be looking at about 9 to 10 bets here, though, so a lot to look at. If that sounds good, go ahead and give this video a like. Let's jump right into it. Quick reminder that we did start memberships on the YouTube channel, and what you get there is get to skip the line, essentially, right? You go ahead and make sure that your bet gets reviewed on the live show, which is what we're doing. Each live show, you guys bring your bets in the comments, and we go ahead and look at that together to find the best value. But we're doing that with a little bit more organization here moving forward, as we need to figure out a way to get all of the looks that are coming in on the comments to live show producer David and myself. We want to make sure we get to the ones that people that essentially at this point we need to figure out a way to prioritize it. So it's $5 a month. You go ahead and get a bunch of other stuff that's coming too, emojis, icons, badges that sort of help you stand out in the chat and get noticed. And there will be plenty of more value coming down the line as well. But hope to see you guys in the live show on Monday, 5:30 p.m. Eastern. Let's look at Sunday right now, though, in the NBA. As always, going to be using Props Madness on the show. The best tool around, saves you the most time, everything you need pretty much right here on propsmadness.com. So I definitely recommend using this platform. If you do want to use it for a free 7-day trial, use code LYB. You'll also get 25% off your first month if you do decide to move forward with it. But like I said, there's going to be more than everything that you need here. And in case that you missed the last episode, I was showing everyone they have a season assist chart now. So if you're on assists for a guy like De'Aaron Fox, for example, if you scroll down to this, what would normally just be the season shot chart, this is the assist chart showing you where on the floor he is getting those assists, plus where on the floor the opposing defense is vulnerable or strong when it comes to limiting assists. So this is an awesome tool that is only getting more awesomer, and I could not recommend it more highly. So jump in using code LYB if you do want to use some Props Madness. First game on the slate here, nice and early, 1 p.m. on the East Coast. Knicks are in Boston, taking on the C's. Josh Hart and OG are still questionable. Not looking good for Josh Hart right now. He basically has runner's knee, so we'll wait to see what happens. I believe they both do have props up, so we assume that they're going to play, but I wouldn't yet bank on it for either guy. OG more likely than Josh Hart at this point. And then on the other side for Boston, not really anything to worry about. Neemias Queta is likely not going to play. But other than that, what we're looking at here is just be careful, because right now, when you look at the 2 games that they played against each other, have not been close. A 23 and a 27-point game here in the first 2. You can see that they just wiped the floor with the Knicks here. The Knicks are getting wiped out by both them and the Cavs, which is not a good sign if you're trying to make a run in the Eastern Conference playoffs. And it's something we should keep an eye on, because if they can't hang in this game, then there probably is something to be legitimately worried about for the Knicks. That said, what I do want to bank on here, if we can avoid a total blowout for Jason Tatum, I'm going back to the rebounds and assists. We have this head-to-head, and you can see in the 2 games here, he went over on the 13.5 once, under in the other game. But if you were watching the episode a couple days ago, we took Tatum on the rebounds and assists, because when he's playing with Kristaps and the rest of the starters are all available, he goes off. In these 2 games against the Knicks, Kristaps missed both of them. Jrue Holiday missed one of them. So when he's not playing with everyone, he does a lot more scoring, which is what he did in these 2 games against the Knicks without Kristaps and Jrue Holiday. Just took off and just scored, right? He in the first game had 18 shots, really nice shooting night, and then 26 shots to get his 30. What did he have here? 40. Excuse me, the 40 that he got in 37 minutes in their second game earlier this month. So for Tatum, while the points are have looked good against the Knicks, the reason I like the rebounds and assists is because what happens when you put in everybody. So let's take Jaylen Brown, Kristaps Porzingis, Derek White, Peyton Pritchard. I don't really care about him, but whatever. Jrue Holiday, right? Even Al Horford. Let's put all of them, make all of them available. And in the games that he's played with them, yes, he's at about 26 points, slightly fewer, only about 0.5 fewer per game than when not all of those guys are available. But if you look at the rebounds and assists, those go up from about 13 without those guys to actually a little less than 13 to 15 with them, over in 9 of 15. And if you look at the way that he's playing when he's on court with these guys, he's averaging about 16 and a half rebounds and assists per 36 minutes when he plays with all of these guys. So like you put Al Horford on the floor with the starters, still gets about 15. You put Kristaps out there with the other 4 guys and Jason Tatum, you're talking about him at about 16 and a half rebounds and assists. So he becomes a facilitator and he becomes a much more involved in the rebounding, which is going to be crucial against this Knicks team, especially one of the better rebounding teams in the league. So I'm looking at the rebounds and assists on an over for Tatum here on Sunday. Next look here is for Kristaps Porzingis. First thing we got to talk about is the quarter 1 points, right? I mean, this is just a wagon. Everybody in the VIP section of the Discord knows what I'm talking about, and those that are joining the live show, and probably most people watching basketball. Kristaps Porzingis, when you have it at 5.5 first quarter points, this is a wagon, right? Yes, I've got right now him with everybody playing alongside him, so still a really nice number, over an 11 of 17 when he's got everybody that's out there with him. But it doesn't matter really, because in the first quarter we know he's going to play about 8 minutes, and if you look at since he came back from injury, this was in early January where he was hurt for a while and then he came back. The first game was against the Nuggets here. I believe it was like the last 19 games, let's say 17 games since he came back from injury. Look at this hit rate, right? In these last 17 games where he's been consistently out there and starting, 15 of 17, averaging 8 a game. What I love too about Props Madness, we can scroll over to the field goal attempts and see how many he's taking per game in the first quarter. 4.9, like 5 shots per first quarter. It's incredible with a really nice field goal percentage. Also looking at the 3-point attempts, more than 2, and then the free throw attempts more than 1. So he's getting a point off free throws. He's getting making about 2 of his 5 shots, and 1 of them is threes. Right. So that's why he's at 8 points per first quarter here in these last 17 games. Feel great going back to it. I think if you're going to take a full game bet for him, I love this at 18.5 on the points, and I would limit it at 19.5. But 18.5 is a bet if we can still get that number on Sunday. 19.5. Going to have to keep that at pretty good odds. I don't think I'd play this at about minus 120 for the 19.5. You lose an edge there. But if you look at center's points versus the Knicks, you can get yours against this team, because if you look at the way that they defend the pick and roll, it's horrible, right? They are second to last, limiting pick and roll points to the pick and roll man, the big guy rolling. They're also dead last, limiting points to the pick and roll ball handler, the guy that's facilitating off of that. So anything that has to do with points for a center or a big man against Cat, I'm good with that if you want to take it, but I wouldn't be taking this past 19.5 minus 120. And if we can get 5.5 on the first quarter points, I'll take that at pretty much any number. If this does bump up to 6.5, but we get it close to plus money, then I think that's a bet as well for Kristaps. One more reminder to give that video a like if you are enjoying what you're getting here. And we're moving on to the Mavs and the Warriors. Not going to look at anything for the Knicks just yet, mostly because I don't know about OG and Josh Hart, and that's too important. Plus, I'm kind of scared to bet on them against the Celtics. I think the Celtics are about to be on a tear moving forward here down the stretch. So I'm a little bit worried the Knicks are about to get smacked again. But looking at this Mavs and Warriors game, we should know that PJ Washington is questionable. Dwight Powell is doubtful. And then we know everybody else that's out. We got AD, Gafford, Lively, and KJ Martin on the squad, all missing for this team. And then we look at the Golden State side. Kuminga is going to be out again. Still no real foreseeable future for him. Maybe a couple weeks still for Jonathan Kuminga. First guy we got to talk about, man. Brandon Podziemski. I've got this filtered right now for with Jimmy Butler. So he's played these 5 games with Butler. You can see a nice hit rate on the points. It's still 13.5 on DraftKings. This is where I still like this number, is 13.5, 14.5. We're getting a little bit crazy here. But the thing that I can't ignore, in these last 2 games for Pods, he took 20 field goals against the Sacramento Kings. He took 17 shots against the Houston Rockets. That's led the team both games. I can't step away from that. That he's in the starting lineup now. I don't think he's going anywhere. And 39 minutes, 30 minutes back to back. And one of them was a blowout. Still played the 30 minutes against Sacramento. Here he wasn't yet in the starting lineup in these first 3 games, and he's still looking really good when he's playing out there with Jimmy Butler and Steph Curry, because he unlocks stuff in them, and they clearly unlock stuff in him as a spot-up shooter and a guy who knows where to be on the floor with them. So I'm loving the way that he's been added and given more responsibility, and that's the conversation out here in the Bay, is more Brandon Podziemski, please, alongside Jimmy Butler and Steph Curry. On the other side, still going back to Max Christie. We'll see if we can get him at these 12.5 points. I think you just take the points. I love that. But really, the points, rebounds, and assists, if you can get that at 19.5, I think that's absolutely wonderful. You look at the games that he's played here since he's gotten to Dallas, and he's gone over in every single one of them, right? You see the first game he played here was against Philly. Let me make sure I'm not lying to you. Did he play against the Knicks? So it's the last 7 games for him. In the last 7 since he got to the squad, averaging 25.4, and he's clearly clearly important. Like, he didn't start in this last game against the Pellies and still played 32 minutes. Yes, he had a great shooting night, so that's a big reason for the points, but the Pellies are terrible. We know that. And now he gets the Dubs, who he has a good history against because they give up the third most points per game to the spot-up shooter, and that's what he's going to keep doing for this Dallas team. Playing off of Kyrie Irving and company is going to be spot-up shooting, plus 6'6" guard who can really get up and down and will be out there to guard Steph Curry. So he's going to be out there for the minutes in this one. There's no doubt it. And he should be starting. It's a better start for him than Najee Marshall. Plus, we might not have PJ Washington, who's questionable. And if PJ isn't out there, that's just more points for Max Christie. So love it, and boards, to be honest, against the Dubs. So we're going to keep looking at Max Christie's stuff for tomorrow. If we can get about 19.5 PRA, that's a bet. And I would play that up to 20.5 PRA. Don't have much for Clippers and Pacers, so we're going to skip that one for now and go over to the Pistons and the Hawks. One look that I love in this game, got to go back to Cade Dimes. We took him last game that he played against this Hawks squad, and you can see he's got 14 in this last one. This is wrong. This is an alt line. If you look at the 9.5, that is a much more beatable number for Cade, averaging 12.7 against this team this season, averaging 9.5 on the season as a whole. And if you look at the Hawks here, they are 25th limiting assists. So they give up the 6th most assists to the opposing team, and they're in the bottom 10 limiting assists to point guards, which Cade Cunningham very much so is, right? So at 9.5, I can't ignore this stuff for him. The other thing about this for the assists, if you look at the way that point guards and players that are similar to Cade in terms of their play style and their play type and how they're sort of positioned here, according to Props Madness specifically, look at this down when you scroll down. Cade had 14 in his last one. Halliburton had got his props with 9. Fred VanVleet got 6, and I know 6 sounds low, but like the Rockets don't dime up a lot, right? They're mostly an ISO team playing one-on-one ball, and Fred VanVleet still got 6 in that one. Cade Cunningham got 11 in the prior game, and then Harden had 15, another bunch by Cade. Even if you just look at point guards in general, like everybody's going over. 11 for 15 of the last 15 point guards, and some of those are all on the same team, right? You can see guys like Cam Payne is on the same team as Jalen Brunson, and both point guards are going over their assists when they play against the Hawks. So love the dimes for Cade. If this goes up to 10.5 tomorrow, which I imagine it's going to, I would take that down to about -110. I think you can still get value on 10.5 for him. If you look at the potential assists, he had 24 in the last game, 18 in the previous one, and 21. So the potential assists for him that he's averaging against this team this season, we can pull that up over here as well. Potential assists, and we see 21 potential assists in the 3 games against the Hawks this season. That's 6 more than he's averaging on the season as a whole. So this is a great bump in terms of the value that we get from Cade Cunningham going up against a poo-poo defense like the Atlanta Hawks. Moving to Miami and the Bucks here in Milwaukee. And only thing I want to point out, I don't have a bet in this game, but if you want to look at Giannis at 25.5 points, just be careful because he's been on a minutes restriction in these last 2 games, played 24 against the Clips and then played 19 against the Wizards. And I don't think they want to play him more than they have to right now, as he's clearly nursing an injury that they would like him to be 100% when he gets to the playoffs. So before you just see 25.5 and go, whoa, Giannis is normally at 31 or 32.5 points for his line, know that there's a reason for that. We don't yet know if he's playing the normal amount of minutes. We'll need to see what the announcement is from the coaching staff on Sunday. Looking at Wizards in Orlando now, I want to point out a couple things for you in this one too. I'll be looking at Wendell Carter Jr. and specifically the double-double for him, which the value may or may not be there tomorrow. We'll see. But I don't think it's just random chance that in the last 3 games he's been doing so well for this squad. The rebounds are very, very enticing because when he's playing with Franz and Paolo, we'll just call them Fraulo. When he's playing with Fraulo, both of them, he's a much better rebounder. You look at him on the season with Franz, with Paolo, who make up Fraulo, and he's at 8.3 boards per game when he's playing with them. The 9.5 is high. This is not a 10 rebound per game player, that's for sure. But it's a center against the Wizards. They are dead last, limiting rebounds and points to the position. They suck. They've been sucked since they were like the Washington Bullets. This team hasn't been able to stop centers because George Mearson was on the team. If anybody remembers 7'7" George Mearson. I digress. Wendell Carter here, 29 minutes in the last game, 32 in the prior one, and 28 prior to that. All 3 of those games here with Fraulo back on the court. And Goga, our beloved Goga, who was such a cash cow earlier, he had a concussion a couple of weeks ago before the All-Star break and has not recovered yet and has not been able to get on the floor and get the minutes. So against a team like this, as far as the rebounds and the points go, the double-double is plus 130 for Wendell Carter. That's what I'll be looking at tomorrow. If we can't get the value on that, I'll still be looking at like a PR bet or at least a points bet for Wendell Carter Jr. against a horrible, horrible Washington defense. On the other side, the bet to look at is Jordan Poole's under. Points and assists right now are at 28.5, and I love that under. Put it this way, just start here, all right? This dude is at 25.9 PA on the season, and he's playing one of the best defenses in the league, and it's a 3-point higher prop line than his season average. Granted, like, I get that Kyle Kuzma's not there, but let's go ahead and take Kuzma out. Malcolm Brogdon's not going to play, so let's take him and Kuzma out because we know Kuzma's on the Bucks. So in the 11 games he's played without both of them, he's averaging 26.8, and he's only gone over in 3 of 11. And 3 of the times that he went over so far that it really it makes a big difference, right? Like this average, even at 26.8, doesn't take into account these outlier 50 and 47 games here. So I just don't know why this would be so high against such a great defense that's finding its stride now. Had a nice win in their last game. They lost to Memphis by 1, but they've clearly got their groove back. And I like them to wipe the floor with the Wizards at home on Sunday. Last game that has some props we can look at is going to be Spurs at the Pelicans. And we got to start with the guy that we went with last game. Zion carried us really easily to 25 points by like the middle of the third quarter. And he's at 24.5. It's high because he's still at 28 minutes, period. He's not playing more than 28 minutes. The coaching staff has said that, and he's either played 28, 27, or 26 minutes pretty much every game this season since he's come back from injury as well. At the beginning of the season, he was playing a few more, but not anymore, right? He's at 28 minutes, period, end of story. The thing is, he's averaging more than 1 point per minute. That's stupid. That's absolutely ridiculous. Like when since he's come back from the injury, which we'll say all these games in November, let's pull this out. So all the games in January, at this point, he's averaging 26.8 minutes per game since January and 25.5 points. So like basically a point a minute on the floor. That's absurd. That's absolutely bananas. And now we're talking about a Spurs team here that it's very important to understand. This Spurs team gives up the 5th most points at the rim. This last game against Detroit, where they didn't have Wembanyama, they gave up 48 points at the rim. 24 made baskets on 48, 40 attempts. 24 for 40 at the rim against the Spurs for Detroit in this last game. That's crazy. For reference, the worst defense at the rim on the season is giving up 28 attempts and like 20 makes, right? Or it's like 19 makes. Yet this team just gave up 24. Like, it was horrible. And it's going to only get worse, especially for when you've got a guy like Zion, who is going to be pummeling the rim, shooting 58% of his shots at the rim. And there ain't going to be nobody to stop him because Sandro Mamukelashvili, who I'm sure is everybody's favorite player. I love Sandro Mamukelashvili, and I am saying his name correctly because I practiced it. But he ain't going to be stopping nobody going to the rim. I don't think he's going to be able to get up there to hang with Big Zion. So we're going to be looking at his points. We might be able to get them at 23.5 because 24.5 is still kind of high. We'll see what the market pressure does for tomorrow, but we got to be eyeing Zion points for sure. The other look I had is the one I mentioned at the top of the show, or at least was looking like it was at the top of the show, was De'Aaron Fox on his dimes specifically. Love the assist for him. It's at 5.5 right now, but I'm willing to play this at 6.5. You see what he's done since he's been a part of the Spurs. I believe it's been about 6 games that he's played with the Spurs. 7 games, excuse me. So he's played 7 games with San Antonio this season, averaging 7.3 per game, right? The thing is, look at the potential assists for this dude. He's at 13 potential assists per game, averaging 7. It's about average. That makes sense, but he's got more than anybody else on the team, leading in touches, and now Wemby's gone, and you're talking about a team in the Pelicans that gives up the 5th most assists per game. You can see that by hovering over the game here against them that's coming up. 5th most assists allowed per game. They give up in the bottom 5 limiting assists to point guards. Like, this is an opportune time for him to get this stuff because they give up so much to spot up shooters. So D Fox does most of his scoring off the pull-up. Not saying he can't get his points against this awful defense, but I'm leaning into the assist here, and we'll see if we can get 5.5 for a better number because it's like minus 150, or if we can get 6.5 for like plus 110. I still think that's going to be a good look against the Pelicans. All right, don't forget, memberships starts on Monday, so get it in, $5 a month. Make sure you get your bet looked at on the show, right? I don't have time to look at everybody's comments these days, which I'm very grateful for. We've got a ton of people in the show every weekday, 5:30 p.m. Eastern. So on Monday, hope to see you guys there. Hope to see all the members in there as well so we can look at y'all's bets. And until I see you then, happy betting.